your name and affiliation.
I'm Kathryn Lande. I work in the Leslie Biophysics Lab in the Rutherford Physics Building on McGill campus, and I'm also the president of the McGill Biology Student Union.
Great. And it sounds like if you're working in a biophysics lab,
Yeah.
sounds like you actually are involved, or at least very keen on research. Can you describe some of the research you've been doing?
Yeah, so the Leslie Lab is part of the physics department, and most of the people who work there are physicists. And being a biophysics lab, there's also like a big component of molecular biology. So I'm one of the people there who's one of the few people there who's like a pure biologist. So what I'm doing right now is I'm working on my honors thesis, and what I'm hoping to do is I'm hoping to find a way to put fluorescent labels on plasmid DNA without altering the sequence of the plasmid DNA, and to add those fluorescent labels only at specific locations. So I came up with a potential protocol for how to do it. So right now I'm workshopping that protocol, and hopefully it will work. Wow. But yeah, in science you never know if things are going to work.
Do you have a kind of feeling though that it might? I mean, you have to.
Yeah, I'm hopeful because I based it off of like existing similar techniques that are very reliable and like popularly used. So there's a lot of precedent for what I'm doing, and I think like it's going to take a while to make it actually work, but I think it's just going to be an issue of optimization rather than does this work or does it not work?
Mm-hmm. You talk like a scientist. Do you consider yourself a scientist?
I do consider myself a scientist. I've been working in research since I was in high school. Got my first research job when I was 17, and it was at a virology lab at the Smithsonian Zoo.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I've been doing research on and off ever since. So, yeah.
Was that what you always wanted to be? Did you start this kind of vision when you were little? Did you have a path?
Yeah, I think when I was really, really little, I wanted to be an artist, but that was because I was like 3 and I really liked my crayons. But I think by the time I was 10, I knew that I wanted to be a biologist.
Was there a turning point? Was there something that really made that decision clear?
I got a gift one Christmas from, I don't remember who it was, but it was like this set of like flashcards about human anatomy, and I was like 9 years old or something, 9 or 10, and I was just sitting there with these flashcards like quizzing myself about human anatomy, and I was so into it. And then I would like make my dad, who's a doctor, do it with me, and like if I got a question right and he got one wrong, I was like so excited.
That's great.
Yeah.
Has your path been straightforward, or were you mentored? Was it, is it easy for someone your age to be a scientist, a young woman?
I'm not sure if my gender makes it more difficult at this stage in my career, at least. I know that there are more women in biology right now at my level than there are men. And I think just at my level, I've gotten some advantages even for being female. I know that job that I got at the zoo, actually, they were specifically looking for female candidates over male candidates, which was very, very nice, obviously. And I think that there is a push, at least in biology right now, that I've noticed to hire women over men, which is really nice. But I think going forward, I will face some challenges. You know, there's the whole glass ceiling thing. It gets worse and worse with each stage. Like the master's degree, there's fewer women than there were at the undergrad, and at the PhD, there's fewer women than there were at the master's, and at the professor level, there's even fewer women, you know, so.
And that, you think about that kind of, it's always there.
Yeah, it is always there. I'm fairly confident that I'm gonna push through whatever challenges I have to face in the future, be they related to my gender or not. But who knows, maybe I'm just young and naive.
How old are you?
I'm 20.
Do you actually sit down and map your forward path? Like, do you have a 5-year plan, or?
No, I'm fairly spontaneous when it comes to things like this. I have a general sense of what I want to do, Like, I've always known that I wanted to go into research, and like coming into my undergrad, I knew I would probably want to pursue a master's degree rather than go to med school or something like this. But an idea of like where or what specifically I would want to study, what lab I would want to do it in, I don't plan my life out meticulously like that. I kind of, when I see an opportunity that speaks to me, I take it.
Do you think mentoring is going to be important in your future as a woman in science?
I think so. I like to think that I've always been more of a mentor than a mentee. I have, like, even since high school, I have like a lot of younger female friends who often come to me for not so much career advice, but just like general life advice that sometimes also is career advice. Yeah, and I like the idea of going into academic research because I think the teaching aspect of science is equally as or more important than the research aspect of science in a lot of ways, especially now. A lot of people could use better scientific education.
You've noticed that like at all levels, from high school through to college?
Yeah, I just kind of mean in society in general. Oh, yeah. I think there's a lot of ways that people's baseline scientific education has failed them. Not so much in Canada, but in the United States more so. You see a lot of people who like think vaccinations are bad, people who don't believe in climate change, people who protest GMOs without knowing anything about them. And I know that's more of a intricate issue than the first two I mentioned, but yeah, there's a lot of irrational dislike of science right now, I find, which I found really ironic because I watched that solar eclipse on the lower field of McGill just this past week, and there were like 1,000 people there all looking at the solar eclipse. And the whole time I was sitting there wondering how many of these people aren't going to vaccinate their children.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
So you seem very positive, Kathryn, and you've told us some of the stories about you actually already being more of a mentor than a mentee. So it seems like people look to you already for leadership and guidance, and it seems like you're very balanced socially, intellectually, and very grounded. Are there any difficulties you can share with us about your life so far as a young woman in science? Was there anything any failures, any things that didn't work out as expected?
Well, I guess the only true hardship that sticks out in my mind when I think specifically about being a young woman in science is I had a class one time, and the TA for this class was the kind of misogynistic where even the male students could tell he was misogynistic. Oh. Yeah. So I was not a big fan of that class, probably because of this TA, but I was sitting next to two of my friends. One of them was a female, and the other one was a male. And our male friend would ask a question about the course material, and the TA would come over and he would give him a really thorough answer, a really helpful answer, and he'd be like so nice about it. Then 5 minutes later, me and my female lab partner would ask a very intellectually similar question pertaining to the course material, and he would come over and he would either give us a 10-second very curt response, or he would not even answer the question and just kind of make fun of us for being stupid. Yeah, so.
I'm glad to hear that only happened once.
Yeah, that only happened once.
Anything younger people could look out for? Any pitfalls that you would, just, I don't know, tips?
Yeah, I think if I could go back to that situation with the horrible TA, I would have reported him sooner. It took me until the end of the semester to report him. And McGill was pretty good about it, I noticed. I reported him after the lab 1 week, and then the next week I noticed he was just not making eye contact with me, and he seemed really ashamed. So yeah, hopefully that solved the issue as much as that issue can really be solved.
cool. Do you think it's hard to have a balanced life as a scientist and a woman?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still an undergrad, so the real brunt of the difficulty to balance life as a scientist and a woman hasn't really come yet, you know? I think everyone is busy in their undergrad, and during your undergrad, everyone understands when, you know, you can't make time for them for whatever reason, your family or your significant other. But I don't know, 10 years from now, if I am considering having a family, that could be very difficult. And I think that's a problem that all professional women face.
What do you find difficult now?
I don't really have any difficulties now, honestly. I kind of thrive off of always being busy. Yeah, it's how I like to live. If I had $1 million and I had to use it to get women and other diverse groups into science, I think the best way to spend it would be early childhood education. Because I think early in your life, you figure out what you like, and that comes back later on. Like, I know for me, I only realized that I wanted to be a biologist when I was 10 or 11, but I had always really liked the outdoors, I had always really liked animals, I had always really liked nature in general, and that was because I had really positive experiences with it as a child. So I think if I had $1 million, I would use it to create really positive experiences for women and for other diverse groups of people about science, nature, engineering, technology, stuff like that, experiences that they wouldn't get otherwise.